really happy today to have an expert from Humboldt-University with us in this webinar, in this meeting on ethical aspects of our research and innovation projects. I'm happy to present to all of you Kerstin Helbig. She is Research Data Manager and Coordinator at Humboldt-University. And yeah, we are working with her together since several years, and we are really grateful for all the support we have got from Kerstin. She at Humboldt-University, she assists researchers in managing research data and is organizing trainings and is really very helpful in for every issue, for all issues you can imagine. Her former position was a research associate in the Leibniz Institute of Social Science, so she has also a broad background on social science. Today we want to talk about ethical aspects of our research and projects as a part of the good scientific practice. And yeah, we would like to learn a bit more what does research ethics actually mean in concrete terms in projects and in research in general, and how we can raise our awareness on these aspects and change this. And yeah, this presentation will provide first insights introducing relevant dimensions of ethics in research, showing some case studies as well. And then we have also time for questions and discussions. And this is a recorded session, so this will be also available later for, yeah, going back to this and thinking. So the floor is yours, Kerstin, and then we are happy to have your presentation today. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ina, for having me here, for inviting me for the presentation. I hope you can see the slides, and yeah, thanks again for the invitation. I prepared a little agenda for today. So after the welcome and some organizational information, I will give some background information and also some definitions for you so that we know what we are actually talking about when we talk about ethics. I also brought some use cases from our support. So those are actual use cases from projects where we gave support. We will also talk about self-assessment criteria so that you actually know what could be questions if you want to, or criteria that you can go through to check if research ethics is actually a topic for your project, especially. And after that, we will also have a guest here from Humboldt-University. It will be Professor Dagmar Mithöfer. She's from the Ethics Committee here at TER Institute. And she will talk a bit about yeah, how an ethics committee works and also which kind of questions researchers have that are posed to this ethics committee. And I'm really happy that she will also give her insights on this topic. Afterwards, we will have some time for discussion and your questions, and I will give a short summary at the end. So for the organizational information, as you probably all know, the slides and the recording will be available afterwards. I prepared an Etherpad for collecting questions. You can also write in the chat if you like, but if you want to describe something a little bit more, maybe it's better to use the Etherpad. And also, if you already have best practices or good use cases that you can contribute to this workshop, please feel free to also put it in this Etherpad. After the workshop, I will try to summarize this a bit and structure it and send it around for you also to have it like a short, like an FAQ for you to have a look at. Of course, there's a lot of information out there about research ethics. I just picked one that's probably most important for you in the project. That's, of course, the website of of Horizon 2020, the funding guide, where you can find information about ethics as well. And I also picked this Foster Open Science online course, where you can also read up a lot about research ethics in general, and learn a bit about research ethics. And of course, if you have questions, please contact us. We try to help. And of course, there are also local ethics committees in your institutions maybe. Also feel free to contact them if you have the opportunity, because of course they are best equipped and knowledgeable to know the concrete guidelines at your institution. So that's for the organizational information. I would like to start into the topic with the question, why is research ethics actually relevant for you as a project or as a researcher? And Ina already said it's part of the good scientific practice, of course. So has a lot to do with research integrity, about the code of conduct for research integrity. And of course, there are also parts where data protection comes into this topic. So there are areas where this overlaps a bit. I picked here the principles of research integrity by ALEA, the Alliance of European, of ALEA, I would just say. So what it is about, so we are talking about reliability, besides objectivity and validity, so that research is reliable, that it is honest, that our people or animals or plants or nature, whatever, society is respected, and that research is accountable, so that we are talking about responsible research. The goal, and that's also something that Ina already mentioned. So with research ethics, we try to raise the awareness of researchers for ethical responsibility and of the consequences that our research can have. So when we talk about research ethics, what does it actually mean? So we try to consciously reflect on what science or the research process actually does, and what we as researchers might be responsible for. This could be possible risks from research to individuals, to society, to animals, or cultural assets, and the environment. And this should be assessed, identified, and weighed up if this harm needs to be avoided, or if it's all right to do this research in the form that we plan to. So that's an assessment process that we actually do here. There are a lot of dimensions of research ethics, as you might already know. So there are different aspects that need to be considered. So the first thing, of course, is avoidance of harm. But this could also be not just violence as a consequence, but also stigmatization or marginalization of groups. So when we do research, Could this harm a specific group, or could this maybe also produce a gain for specific groups if we do this research? And what is this result intended? Another important aspect is that relevant findings are not are clearly described, and also that there's no deception or omission of relevant findings, so that the research output is clear and nothing is omitted from this. So it's also about transparency, that people know where the sources of funding actually come from. This is especially relevant for corporate collaborations, of course, but could also be relevant for other sources of funding. If we do research, of course, the voluntariness of our respondents is important, and therefore we work a lot with the informed consent, which you already also have in the project. You have templates for this, and also, of course, it's important that respondents are competent and have the capacity to give consent. So if we think about children or people that are not able to make their consent themselves, that we also have the possibility to address this circumstances with the specific informed consent. Those are just examples. There is there are these 12 golden rules to ethical research conduct, which I would like to recommend to you. I will also put it in the chat, where you can find a lot more examples for that. And so I would like to make it a bit more practical. So what could be examples for these dimensions? And so I brought this first use case to you. In this research that was done at Humboldt-Universität, there was a religious grouping. It is a minority in some countries, and the researchers did participant observation and interviews with this grouping, and the statements were recorded and the excerpts were published. Of course, there wasn't information on who actually did the interview, so the interviewers were not were anonymized or not mentioned. And later on, a few years later, the political situation changed, and there were actually inquiries to the researchers about their interviewees. So they were supposed to tell who they did these interviews with, because they wanted to know who's actually part of this grouping, of this religious grouping. And that was quite problematic for the researchers, because they had to decide if they are able to give this information or if not, if this is not ethically possible. And so I would like you to guess what ethical aspects of research are involved in this case. You can write in the chat or just unmute yourself. Do you have an idea what is the problem here? Ina.
Yes, I would not have shared the names, of course, because if we have not the consent to share names, then independently if the political situation is changing in favor or not, I would not have shared this information due to the issue that I have no consent on this.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But even if you had the consent of the people to share this information, how would you react? And what's the problem with the ethical problem? Maybe it's not a legal problem, but an ethical problem. Okay, I think I would. Yes.
In Norway, we have like really strict forms that we have to fill in where people sign up to, if they give their consent, and then we have to say we'll delete the data after so long tid, so long time, and then it will only be used for this particular purpose. They can withdraw their name if they want, blah blah blah. So I think there'd be quite a lot of barriers to using it in a different context. And often it's easier to get permission if you don't actually even keep the names. You just have a key, or they're anonymous. Yeah,
that's a very good example. And I just want to give the solution. So of course the ethical aspect that's relevant most importantly here is that the participants, so our interviewees, should be protected against disadvantages or dangers. And that could be the case here, so that if we give this information, even though it might be actually legally possible, it could have ethical, it could be ethically problematic, because we give this information and this could lead to disadvantages or even dangers for this group because they are identified, and this could lead to prosecution, for example, so that they go to jail, for example. Okay, so we go to the next use case from agricultural research. Something that often, or not that often, but sometimes happens. So people read this in the newspaper, for example, a new animal species is discovered by chance. So you do agricultural research and someone finds a new species. Normally, if you do research, for example, for the European Commission, your research funder requires that you also make data available for other researchers, for example. But in this case, the data set with the location of the discovery cannot be published freely accessible. Why? So what's the ethical problem here?
So this is actually a case that's quite similar to what we deal with in our monitoring program. But there, because it's monitoring, we can't change the practice, the management on the monitoring squares, because then they won't be representative for the rest of the country. So that's like a really strong principle, that we shouldn't report anything we discover, which would then be treated differently from the rest of Norway. So yeah, but that's a bit special because of the monitoring program. This one's a little strange because you say that the research funder actually requires you to publish. So I mean, if you think putting this animal species in danger by its location becoming known, then you should probably have told the research funder that would be the case, or explain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was discovered by chance, so it wasn't intended in the first place. But of course, this is also something considering this in risk management, for example, during your project planning, for example. So what we have here is protection of the environment and endangered animal or plant species. So that not just people need to be protected, but of course also the environment or animal and plants. I would like to go to the third use case before we come to the criteria. So this was a research on chemical processes, so maybe a bit more apart from what you do in the project. It was a doctoral thesis on the process and production of a chemical product. And the description in the doctoral thesis was actually misused by criminals and used for explosives production. So, but that was, of course, not intended by the doctoral student. So do you have a guess what could be the dimension here, what we are talking about regarding ethics?
Well, it's also could harm people, yeah, to use this knowledge, this dangerous knowledge, and yeah, then we enter into ethical points.
Yeah, exactly. So we try to assess if there are possible risks by publishing this doctoral thesis, for example. And this possible risks could also include technology assessment, dual use aspects. So also try to think about that when you think about your research, not just about people or animals, but also about the technology that might, or methodology that is produced or used. Those are just examples, of course, and in your research, you maybe say, oh, this is not relevant for me. But it's important to think about, what is actually relevant for my project. And so I brought this self-assessment criteria by Rad SVD that were created by Rad SVD. And there's also a checklist from Horizon 2020 that I will also put in the chat. With the questions, you are able to assess yourselves if your project or your project design might encompass research or problematic ethical aspects, so that you can think, okay, I have to act here, I have to maybe contact the ethics committee, or I have to think about solutions for that, or not. And you can go through these questions. So you can also have a look if there is a guideline that is relevant for the research. Are there already ethical codices or guidelines for your department, for your institute? And what could be possible risks that people or animals or other aspects that we already talked about? Is there anything relevant? Could there possibly be harm or benefit for the participants that participate in your study? And what could be measures that can be taken to avoid this harm? So I think that's the most important point. It doesn't mean that you are not able to do the study as you plan, but you have to think about measures how to minimize the harm that might arise through your research. And it's also important to think about not just the people that you work with, or the animals or plants that you work with, or the technology, but maybe also for you as a researcher, if there are risks for you personally, if you do this research. So is this something unusual compared to your everyday research? And if so, what could reduce this risk again? So, for example, in the case with the religious grouping, the researcher was also questioned by the police, you could say, if this information can be can be given. And of course, this is something that a researcher doesn't do every day, and that's probably also something that you would like to not do or avoid. Yeah, so I just wanted to give you an idea how to assess this yourselves. And if you come to the conclusion that these criteria are relevant for your research, then we go to the next step actually. So if you think ethical aspects are relevant in your research and you're not able to find measures or means to avoid this risk, then it's also a good, also necessary to assess this ethical aspects by an ethics committee, which can also help to give information or to give advice. This is normally done on application. So you write a written application and to get an ethics vote from the ethics committee, which is normally free of charge. Then I will just go to my short summary that I prepared. And I think that some points were already mentioned already also by Dagmar. So research ethics is a bit in a triangle together with good scientific practice and data protection. So Dagmar said that there are overlaps between all these areas, and it's quite difficult to find out, is this an ethical aspect? Is this a data protection aspect? Is it just good scientific practice? So it's a bit of everything sometimes. And the second point we already also had, so research ethics begins where legal requirements end. So even though sometimes something seems to be legal, it could be ethically problematic. I hope that the workshop also showed you that ethical aspects are not always immediately recognizable, so that it's quite difficult to find out, does my project encompass ethical issues? And especially this aspect of dual use, or could my data be misused by others, or my technique, my method, whatever. This is something that is quite difficult to foresee also for the future. I hope that the workshop showed you that it is actually possible to try to assess this, for example, via the checklists that Dagmar and I also mentioned. And it's important to exchange with colleagues on this topic, to discuss if they see any problems, and to also find find means or find consequences for the research, and the ethics committees can help with that. So that's what I wanted to conclude with. Thank you so much for your interest, for being here, and I hope it was interesting. And if you have any questions, you can write me at this email address. And also, of course, Dagmar, if you have any special interest in the ethics committee work, for example. Thanks.